We're thinking about going to the Middle East, not yet. We have a thing called the hostages are coming back going on right now, and they are coming back. Some of them have been very, very damaged. If I weren't here, they wouldn't be back ever.
President Trump revealing plans for a potential trip to the Middle East as Israel launches a crackdown on the West Bank. All of this as we await the release of the remainder of the 33 hostages that Hamas is expected to free in the first phase of the ceasefire deal. But Trump admitted earlier this week that he's, quote, not confident the ceasefire will hold. Joining me now with a reaction is Heritage Foundation National Security Vice President and former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Donald Trump. She is author of The Battle for the Jewish State, How Israel and America Can Win. Victoria Coates back with us. Victoria, thanks very much for being here. Your reaction?
Well, I think the president's just being rational here, Maria. Of course, as hostages come home, it's a cause for rejoicing. These people have been held for over 400 days under just appalling circumstances. There are still Americans there. This is something that he's made a priority since his reelection in November, providing clear American leadership that the hostages need to come home. So I think that is a good thing and should be celebrated. But at the same time, we're dealing with Hamas here, and Hamas, are terrorists who have kept this war going for 15 months. They started it in the first place. They are still bent on their genocidal project of eliminating Israel. So, as thankful as we can be that a few people are coming out, at the same time, we can't have any illusions about who we're dealing with. And that's what I think President Trump was speaking to.
Meanwhile, the president says all hell will break out if the ceasefire deal collapses. Do you expect that this will hold?
Well, I mean, one hopes it holds because I would like to get to other things in the Middle East, other peace deals, more regional prosperity, get after the Iranian problem. But at the same time, in many ways, it's up to Hamas whether or not it holds. And, they have not been a reliable partner. Now, I think the president has also sent some very important signals to Hamas about what all hell breaking out looks like by releasing, for example, the 2,000-pound bombs that the Biden administration had refused to provide to Israel. So I think he's sending a very clear signal that the United States has Israel's back. The days of slow walking resupply to the Israeli military are over, and that they should make their plans accordingly. So hopefully that has a good effect and motivates Hamas to stick to the terms that they've already agreed to.
Meanwhile, just one day after Trump's inauguration, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping spoke on a video call. They promised to, quote, elevate their ties and their strategic partnership. All of this as Trump reportedly wants to visit China during his first 100 days. This would be the first time a U.S. president traveled to Beijing so soon after taking office since George H.W. Bush in 1989. What do you think?
Well, I think the lines of communication are good. When I came down to Washington for the inauguration last Sunday, the Chinese vice premier was on my train, which is not something that happens every day. And I know he met with Vice President Vance this week. So I think it's good to have China and the United States talking at that level with an American administration that's towing a pretty strong line on China. So where the president chooses to travel is obviously up to him. I think he's also considering the Middle East. There would be a precedent for that in his first term. So, they'll make that decision going forward. But I think he's also sending really great signals to China in the form of the energy reforms that have come out in the first tranche of executive orders, which are all fantastic for building what is America's greatest strategic advantage over China, which is, as he says, the liquid gold under our feet. They don't have that. So releasing it is one of the great things we can do. I also think the Stargate project for American dominance of AI, which would be partnered with and supported by our allies, that is another way we counter China without firing a shot. And so I think communication is great, and I think those messages are even more important.
Yeah, great analysis as always, Victoria. Thanks so much for joining us.
Of course, it's a pleasure.